Hey, what's up, everybody? Izzy Presley here, getting ready to jump into episode number 29. Yes, the John Kruk of another effing podcast, welcoming a very special guest. You know him from Cinderella and the folks from the Monsters of Rock cruise and the Cruise to the Edge and the Moody Blues cruise know him from Cheap Thrill. I hung out with him for all three of those cruises. What an absolute blast. Jeff LaBar will be joining the show, talking about his brand new record, One for the Road, which is available via iTunes, Amazon, all of your outlets. I think Best Buy, he said, too. Fun interview with him, getting into the record, getting into a whole bunch of stuff. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, you must support the sponsor, RockstarLeatherworks.com. That's right, RockstarLeatherworks.com. Leather bands and watches, badass gear. If you're in a band, you're a poser like me, they look amazing on stage. If you just like looking like that, they look amazing on your arm. Check them out, RockstarLeatherworks.com. Very cool, handcrafted leather bands and watches. RockstarLeatherworks.com. Find the show on the facebook.com/another effing podcast. Find me on Twitter, Izzy_Presley, and the website for all of your marketing and PR needs is IzzyPresleyProductions.com. Also, if you want to support the show, I suggest you do. I'm not begging for money, except to support the show. There's a lot of stuff I want to do. I want to get an app. I need to update the Spreakers so I can put everything up there and not have to take stuff down. All that stuff costs money. The internet, it costs money. And that's what this money goes for. It's izzy.presley@gmail.com is your PayPal. izzy.presley@gmail.com is your PayPal. If you want to send $1, if you want to send $20, if you want to send 100, that's awesome. If not, hey, that's great too. Just enjoy the show. So, without further ado, welcome to another effing podcast.
Hi, this is Bobby Brown, and welcome to another fucking podcast.
You kids with your loud music and your Dan Fogelberg, your Zima, hula hoops, and Pac-Man video games, don't you see? People today have attention spans that can only be measured in nanoseconds.
Hello, Hollywood. Hello, world. And hello, my loyal minions. It is good to see you, and as always, good to be seeing Izzy Presley here for another glorious edition of another effing podcast. Big show, possibly with my biggest guest yet. And I'm not talking girth, because he's not girthy, not like me. From Cinderella, Jeff LaBar will be joining the show in just a little while. The great Babu will be here in just a minute or two to talk some fantasy football, to get all of that glorious stuff out of the way. And then we'll be playing a track off of Jeff's record, too, which is called One for the Road. Going to be playing the lead track, which is escaping me right now. No strings. I don't have the record in front of me, and I'm an airhead, and I forget shit. It's usually better to have stuff in front of me, but that's way too damn easy. Don't forget to find the show on iTunes. Yes, it is up on iTunes now. You can go there, you can subscribe, you can download everything that you can do with iTunes. Just go to your iTunes, put in that little search button, another effing podcast, and boom, there I am. You click subscribe, you comment on the show, you leave feedback, and you give me 5 stars and make me feel like I'm doing something right. That would make me feel so good. I like adoration. I like people telling me how great I am when I know the reality or something. I don't know. Also on Spreaker, that is Spreaker.com/users/Izzy Presley, and go follow and comment and like and share and do everything that you can to help make this show bigger and bigger and bigger week by week. Yes. 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 I was having a Daniel Bryant moment right there. You know, before I get the great Babu on, the Jeff LaBar interviews roughly 40 minutes, so I'm going to keep this first couple segments short so we can leave even more time for Mr. Jeff LaBar. But everything's going around about the three-titted chick, this skank, I will call her a skank, Jasmine Tridville from Florida, of course, claimed to have had plastic surgery to add a third boob. And we like boobies. And I said if this is real, which I did not think it was, if it was real, in 6 months she'd end up being in porn and making her living on a stripper pole. Well, guess what? And this is probably the only time you're going to hear me read something from TMZ because I hate those scumbag fuckers. Three-boobed woman a fake. No. Really? Apparently. I'll just read the article from TMZ here. The woman claiming to have 3 boobs is a fraud, a fake, and ironically what exposed her lie is a crime someone committed against her. Jasmine Tridville has been making the rounds claiming she got plastic surgery to net her an additional boob, because she was sick and tired of being hit on by guys and didn't want to date anymore, and she was shopping a reality show around. After adding the third boob, of course. So we continue with the story. But we got a document from the Tampa International Airport Police Department describing a baggage theft. According to the doc, someone stole a bunch of luggage off an American Airlines conveyor belt, including a black nylon roller bag. Cops caught the thieves after IDing them with surveillance video. The black bag belonged to Tridville, but before she got it back, it was inventoried by police as part of the case against the crooks. Guess what was in the bag? A 3-breast prothesis. That word. Prothesis. Prothesis. Oh, and it goes on, by the way. BTW, because these amazing journalists can't fucking write out, by the way. She told cops the prosthesis, the 3 tits, were valued at $5,000. The boobs are perfect, but she's a little crooked. I knew it. No way in hell somebody's going to add a third boob. Hey, I would applaud it if it was real. I would totally applaud it, but it was fake. And what gets me, this is the thing. She claimed to have done it because she was sick of being found attractive by guys. Well, you don't need a third tit to be attractive or unattractive. All you need to do is lose a couple of your chiclets, that's teeth in hockey talk. Lose the makeup, because all of the pictures of her with the 3 boobs done up like a porn star, done up like she's going out in the town. Hair all perfect, makeup. So you lose the makeup, lose a couple of the chiclets, and you gain 150 pounds. Boom. Done. Nobody will bother you. Well, that's not true. Somebody will. But the majority will not. No, I got to add a third boob. Well, you didn't. It was fake. It was a fraud. She got everybody. And now this Nimrod is famous. Everybody who knows who she is, or everybody knows who she is, but yet I stumble in mediocrity. I think that's because I can't talk. I stumble in mediocrity And that is famous. This show stumbles in mediocrity, and that is viral. That is famous. That's a bunch of horse shit right there. I mean, come on. I have mirrors. I've seen me. I'm good looking. Very good looking. But that is famous. Maybe I need to grow a third boob. I mean, I've got 2 already, and they're nice. But not like 3 nice. Ugh, just makes me sick. That is now famous. Now she's famous for being a fraud. But before this came out, today, the 23rd of September, that was famous. Sad world we live in, folks. Sad, sad world. But without further ado, I think it's time to bring in the great Babu and talk a little bit of fantasy football. Oh, Bobber! How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Fucking great, man. It's gorgeous out here in Los Angeles. Apparently it is out there in Cheeseville, too, eh?
It is, yeah. We got all the way up in the 70s today, so that's like a heat wave.
Wow, very impressive. Lots of beer, getting drunk. You know.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't matter what temperature it is.
That's true. When in Rome. Fantasy football talk. Gonna jump right into it. Thoughts on the week this week?
This year so far has been very interesting. I've never seen so many top flight running backs start off so horrible. You look at all the top picks: LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson, Matt Forte, and Eddie Lacy have done nothing. And I heard an interesting stat today. Josh McCown has more rushing touchdowns than LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson, Matt Forte, and Eddie Lacy combined.
No way.
Way.
That's insane. That's insane. That just shows you how bad the how bad the running back situation is this year. And actually, we had a question via Facebook from Jeremy Michaels, wondering about why all of his running backs are getting hurt.
Well, believe it or not, I think a lot of that is a factor of when they practice and when they do preseason, they're not taking much contact.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, like we were growing up watching football, watching guys like Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, guys like, did you ever remember them getting hurt?
Never.
Until they were older in their career? No. And it's happening more and more now. I think athletes as a whole, especially their baby through the whole process, in the NFL has really they really downgraded the running back position. But I actually see a trend happening here because all these high-scoring quarterbacks, with the exception of maybe Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, haven't really had a great start to the season. Like you watch Aaron Rodgers against Detroit, and I don't know, was there an imposter? Was Don Majkowski suiting up for Aaron Rodgers and he wore a goatee or what?
Lynn
I mean,
Dickey?
because that was horrible. And Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback I hate being a Vikings fan, but he's a great quarterback. I'll admit that. Green Bay does not look good.
Well, I mean, Stafford had a horrible game too.
He did. And that surprised me because both those teams don't have great defenses. Detroit has a much better defense, and Green Bay's isn't good. I thought both those guys were going to throw up 300 yards, but it is the start of the season, and your guys are going to have up and downs, especially people that have been kind of injury prone.
Mm-hmm.
And this week is really tough for running backs because the Seahawks, the Broncos, the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Browns, and the St. Louis Rams all have a bye week this week. So you mean your guys like Marshawn Lynch, Monty Ball, Gio Bernard, Andre Ellington, and Zach Stacy are not playing this week. And those are starters on pretty much everybody's team.
Right. So obviously got to be looking at the waiver wire this week.
Yeah, there's some good players out there, believe it or not. Donald Brown from the Chargers. He's available in a lot of leagues, and he's the main running back in San Diego now. Matthews is out, and Danny Woodhead's done for the year. So he's really the only guy, and he actually touched the ball. He had 31 carries last week.
31 carries?
And, yeah. He only had 62 yards, but Donald Brown's that type of guy, and he can catch some balls out of the backfield. And this is why I'm really high on him this week, and especially if nobody has him in your league, and you have someone on a bye week or someone that's injured. 2 words for you: Jacksonville Jaguars. That's who they play. So the chance of him getting 70 to 100 yards and scoring is pretty high. Another guy I really like. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna make a joke. It's like I was gonna, do the old whoever's playing the St. Louis Rams trick, and pick up their defense every week. But I don't think that's gonna work very well. I tried it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Jacksonville this year has been really bad. And that was to be expected, but they're starting to start Bortles now, and it's just kind of one of those things where it'll be interesting to see what happens. But with the way San Diego's playing this year, I expect a big game from Phillip Rivers. He's obviously a must start. Any of their receivers, Keenan Allen, I can't think of the other guy, Eddie Royal. Those are going to be good starts for you this week. Gates is going to be a good start for you. And their kicker is going to be good start. I would definitely start any charges you have. I kind of feel the same about the Saints this week. I think they're going to have a big week, and Kyrie Robinson is a running back for them with Ingram out. Pierre Thomas basically is doing the passing down snaps. Robinson's running the ball. He's much more explosive running back. He's a good pickup. D'Angelo Williams from the Panthers is definitely a good pickup. They lost Jonathan Stewart for about a month. Williams isn't at 100% right now, but both Stewart and Mike Tolbert are out. So I bet you he touches the ball about 20 times during the weekend. Obviously, Alfred Blue. A lot of people don't know who that is. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's Vida Blue's son or not. But he's a Texans running back. Because Arian Foster is out. And something that I had told you, I think we were talking on Facebook about it. I was telling you how everybody was going goo gaga over Matt Asiata. Mm-hmm. We're learning that Matt Asiata isn't that great of a running back.
No, he absolutely is not.
And
not
Jerick
at all.
McKinnon, I think you're going to see kind of switch spots with Asiata more. McKinnon's more of a big play guy. He's much more explosive. That's a decent waiver wire pickup because the Vikings are an interesting team going forward. And I haven't read too much, and you obviously know more than I do following the Vikings, but is Bridgewater the starter now?
Well, Castle's out for a few weeks with broken bones in his foot, so I have a feeling that we're going to see Bridgewater from here on out.
Because it's bad for our season per se, but it's good to kind of get him because there's not a whole lot of pressure because they're not expected to do anything, especially we lost, Kyle Rudolph for 6 weeks?
Yeah, he's out with was it a hernia? Or a
something
broken
like that,
rib
yeah.
or something like that, yeah.
I don't know if him and Roman Reigns were hanging out, but what's with the sports hernia injuries?
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, it's a tough week with these bye weeks, especially when you talk about Denver. I mean, just what everybody on their offensive line, or not offensive line, but their offense is an essential player for your team.
Right.
You just look at the receivers, and you got to see Wes Welker with his oversized helmet show up at the game last week, and that was always fun to see. But yeah, it's definitely a tough week with the first week of bye weeks, and there's some really good teams there.
What do you think about? I can't remember his name, even though he's on my team. The receiver from Jacksonville, he's a rookie. No, is it Jacksonville? I think it's Jacksonville. Yeah, he's a rookie. He had a big week the first week. Second week, he didn't do shit. And then they said, well, don't play him ever again. He's like a fourth-string receiver. And then, of course, he blew up again this week. You know what I'm talking about?
Alan Hearns, is
yes.
that who you're referring to?
Yes, Alan Hearns.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on
him?
him?
I mean, especially with Bortles in there. Because Bortles has a stronger arm, and he's much more accurate than Chad Henne is. He just isn't a veteran like Chad Henne. So I like Hearns going forward. I mean, I think whenever you have a rookie play wide receiver and you have a rookie playing quarterback, you're going to have a week where he might have one catch and 12 yards, but the next week he might have 9 catches and 130.
Right.
Because that's the hardest thing about rookies. It's just hard for them to have that stability week in and week out like veterans do. That's why you see the big highs and lows with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely. And he's a guy that should be available in a lot of leagues.
A lot of people picked him up, then a lot of people dropped him.
Right. I picked him up right away, and then I kept him because I need wide receivers. Who do you want to avoid this week? Who should you not start?
I definitely would not start Adrian Peterson.
Well, that's kind of a Zach Morris no-brainer.
It is. No, but on a serious note, basically a game that I'm intrigued by is the Eagles and the 49ers. Basically, every Eagle has been a good start minus LaShawn McCoy, which is kind of a head scratcher if you think about it. But they've been lighting up the scoreboard. And the 49ers have just been a very odd team, you know. I mean, if they gave defenses points in fantasy for personal fouls, I mean, San Fran would be the defense to have. I think they got like 15 or 16 of those already. I like anybody, and I know you're not going to want to hear this, but the Falcons, who have the number one offense going into this week, are playing the Vikings. Even though it's in Minnesota, I sense this game getting out of hand quickly. And although the Vikings did a pretty good job with the Saints last week, I think losing all these players that they're losing sooner or later is going to start to catch up to you.
Right. And,
you know, Kyle Rudolph that's a huge loss to our team.
Yes.
Not only is a really good receiver out of the flat there playing tight end, he's a really good blocker.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like Jimmy Graham where, you know, you ask Jimmy Graham to block, he's like, what's that? You know, I'm not
right.
tight end, I'm a wide receiver.
Any word on Roddy White?
He is still listed as questionable. I think he's going to play because essentially last week he said he could have played, but he wanted to wait till he was 100%.
Okay.
And the coaches were fine with that, you know. So I think he's going to play this week. That's just my gut feeling. And he's going to have a good game. I mean, they had a lot of offense when you put White in there with Julio Jones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just kind of one of those things, you know. But Steven Jackson, obviously, you don't want to start him. Interesting fact about Steven Jackson, though, he actually went to high school with my dad.
What? Oh my God, we're getting a Marv Rassafras reference here on another effing podcast.
I just wanted to make an old joke because the guy's like 36 years old. You know?
Okay. It's like
when running backs hit over 30, it starts to go downhill. And with Steven Jackson, it went downhill very fast. He's lost all his explosiveness and all his speed. He's still a big, physical, strong guy, but he's too injury prone, and he's not going to break off any long runs. Oh, the Saints, definitely you want to play your guys that you have in the Saints because they're playing the Cowboys, and their defense isn't great. That game is going to be a shootout.
Okay. Groovy. You got anything else?
Well, ask me a few questions and I'll see what I got.
I don't got anything. I just needed some expertise to fill up some time like you do so very well every week. He is the great Babu. He is in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And you need any up-to-the-minute, up-to-the-date fantasy football news, you can find him on Facebook. It's facebook.com/another effing podcast fantasy football guru. Yes, that is a mouthful. You can find him through the regular football page too, or the regular podcast page too. And you are on Twitter. What is the Twitter handle again?
It's just FFP AFPP Guru. That's it.
Guru. No, that's it on the end. He was just saying, that's it. That is over. Bobber, we'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Have yourself a good night, and I look forward to hearing your conversation with Jeff.
Oh, it's going to be
Not
great,
me,
man.
but the other Jeff.
Right. Oh, my God, it's Jeff LaBar. Oh, my God. It is Jeff LaBar. He's coming up just in a little bit. That, of course, was Jeff Bauer, the fantasy football guru here of Another Effing Podcast. And you can catch him weekly exclusively right here on Another Fucking Podcast. Oh, just a little note, too. It's looking like very well could happen next week. I might have in studio right here in the Hurt Locker Eric Martin from Mr. Big in negotiations right now to see if we can make that happen, because they have a brand new record coming out and he is going to be in LA rehearsing for about a week and a half, so I should be able to get him in the studio and hear some Mr. Big stories and hopefully get him to play live for us too. That'd be pretty cool. He can play guitar pretty goodly. And it shall be awesome. We are going to get into the Jeff LaBar interview here in just 1 second, but first I want to tell you, if you need a car, if you need a brand new pre-owned vehicle, well, not brand new, it would be new to you, obviously. There's this great little place here in Los Angeles called One Stop Auto. That's onestopautola.com. The number one, stopautola.com. If your credit is terrible, if you don't have any credit, they can help you out. They got me approved. I'm driving a BMW. It's awesome. Me, a Beamer. Yes, I know there are a dime a dozen out here. And when in Rome, get a BMW. So now I have one, thanks to the good people at One Stop Auto right here in Los Angeles. It is on the corner of York and Eagle Rock in Los Angeles, Highland Park, Eagle Rock area. Check them out. The number one, stopautola.com. Jeff LaBar is coming up in just a minute, but first I thought, since he is here promoting his brand new record, which is called One for the Road, why not play a track off of that for you? This is the lead single of the record. There's a video available also, which is very cool. Jeff LaBar playing everything, lead vocals, everything but drums he does on this record. And this song is called No Strings. It is Another Effin' Podcast. All right, that was Jeff LaBar with No Strings off of his brand new record. It's been out for a couple weeks now, a couple months actually, or a month, I don't know, something like that. One for the Road, ladies and gentlemen, from Cinderella, and now with a brand new record out. Oh my God, it's Jeff LaBar.
Oh my God, it's Izzy Presley.
How the hell you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How you been?
I'm all right. Last time I saw you, we were at a bar.
Yeah, doing karaoke?
No, at an airport.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
I remember that was in April, right?
yes, it was. It seems so fucking long ago, man.
Yeah, but I what I remember is doing the karaoke.
Yeah, and
On the boat.
on the boat, yes. I remember you blowing your voice out, and I'm taking responsibility for that, for egging you on and feeding you Jägermeister.
It's really all my responsibility. Like my go-to song for karaoke is always Maggie May.
Yep.
And the older I get, the harder it gets.
Yep.
And I start sounding like this at the end of the night.
Yeah, your voice was in rough shape for a couple of days after that. But you came back the next night and you did it like a champ. It was great.
I know. I couldn't speak, but I could sing. So I'm counting on that. I'm counting on those skills in case I start doing this live.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Are you gonna start get out there and playing? And what's up with that?
That's the plan. Just recently, me and my bass player, the girl who's in my videos, Jasmine Kane.
Yes.
She's the bass player in my video, and we got together and we had lunch and we talked about it. She works all the time. She's a great singer songwriter and bass player, but she does biker rallies.
Okay.
And she's like top billing in Sturgis and all that stuff, And she wants to get into the rock bar scene. I was like, well, I want to get into the biker scene. So we're joining forces, We're joining forces, and we booked a few gigs here and there. We're going to start in Indy, I think next month. We're going to do a gig in Indy, and we're basically going to split a show.
Okay.
Me and her. So we haven't worked on that show yet.
It might be a good idea to start.
Exactly.
And so your son's going to be playing guitar?
I believe so. I'm trying to get him down here because he's in Philadelphia with Mach 22, and we're going to try and see if I could squeeze him away from his band because Jasmine is her band is like a 3-piece.
Okay.
So it's just her and a guitar player and a bass player. So you add me and Sebastian, and that's 5-piece. And then, like I said, we're going to split a Jeff LaBar, Jasmine Kane show. Maybe even slide a couple Mach 22 songs in there. I'm not sure yet.
That would be pretty badass. Now, the record, you're kind of all over the place in the rock and roll realm on the record. I mean, you got some bluesy rock on there. You got a flat-out metal song with Nightmare on My Street, which is badass. You got your Ode to Page, which is really cool, but you also have, like, Ray Rice's theme song, Asking for a Beating.
Oh, my God. How timely was that?
I know, but I will say this.
Or untimely.
Untimely, yeah. I will say this. It does have the greatest line in it, though. When I fucked you, then you spoke, then I hated you.
Well, you're paraphrasing, but...
Well, yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't have the lyrics
close.
right in front of me.
It's close. It's funny because I email with my label guy, Joe O'Brien at Rat Pack Records, like almost every day. And he ends every email with... God, I already forgot the line. And then we fucked. Yeah. Oh, how I hated you.
Yeah. Oh, how I fucked. How I fucked. Then you spoke.
Then you spoke. Oh, how I hated you. And he ends every email with that.
Well, I think the ironic thing about that song is your wife co-wrote that with you, didn't she?
My current wife.
Current wife.
My current wife, Debbie. Yeah, she co-wrote some of the lyrics with me. And when I wrote that, it was very tongue-in-cheek.
Right.
I wasn't, I get a lot of interviewers going like, wow, you seemed in a very dark place when you wrote this record. I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I was in a bad way, blah, blah, blah. Nah, I was not, I was like, I was joking.
Right.
Them's jokes. It was all tongue-in-cheek. I actually wrote the music to Asking for a Beating and Nightmare on My Street a long time ago and just never put singing to it. And when I recorded them for this record, when I recorded all the music, it was done. I'm sitting on my recliner watching TV with my wife, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the studio tomorrow to start doing vocals, and I have no lyrics for Beating and Nightmare. She's like, well, you better get on it. I was like, oh, okay. So I pull out my iPad. We're still sitting here in front of the TV. I just start typing away, and I'm laughing out loud. She's like, what the hell are you laughing at? You sound like a psycho. I'm like, wait till you hear these lyrics. So I wrote Beating and Nightmare in about an hour and a half, sitting on my recliner in front of the TV. And I was just stuck on a few lines for Beating, and Debbie helped me out there.
Well, it's like you said, it's very tongue-in-cheek when you hear it, and some people just freak out about the stupidest shit. But the thing that I really do like about this record, too, is this is truly a true solo record other than the drumming. You play and sing everything.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do when I was threatening to do a solo record. I was threatening everyone. I was like, one of these days, you wait and see. But I wanted to do it myself. Now, I started out as a drummer, but I'm not that good. I'm not as good a drummer as what I would want on my record.
Right.
I want James. I want Scott Rockenfield. I want Troy Luccketta. And I can play drums, but not so much. So I did. I got Troy Luccketta to throw me down some drum tracks from Tesla, and and then I took it all from there. I went in the studio, overdubbed the bass, guitars, keyboards, did some strings on the keyboards, and all the vocals, and then got a couple more drummers. Actually, my engineer Ronnie Honeycutt played drums on one song, and I got this fantastic drummer named Christopher Williams. He's here in Nashville. He played on Asking for a Beatin' and Nightmare.
Okay.
So that's where the heavy metal drumming came from.
Right.
And he's out playing with a country band. It's like
I know that's the business now.
I know. It's actually a country rap band.
Oh no, it's not that Georgia-Florida state line, is it?
No. Well, if he was doing that, then I never would have been out again.
This is true. Oh man.
But yeah. I wanted it to be a true solo record. You know.
Well, yeah, it came out great, man. And how did you get involved with Rat Pack? They're doing a lot of cool stuff up there.
Well, what happened was when we ended our tour Cinderella's tour in 2012, we were unloading the bus. We were in Nashville, getting off the bus. We're done. 3 months out on the road in the summertime, and as we're getting off the bus, Larry Morand, my tour manager, announces to me, "Oh, by the way, Tom's putting out a solo record. It's going to be announced today." I'm like, wow, he kept his secret this whole time. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, he didn't want it to distract from the Cinderella tour. He didn't want you guys have to answer questions in your interviews about Tom's solo record. What are you guys going to do now? Ooh. You know, and stuff like that. So anyway, Larry and my wife, Debbie, said, now you have to do your record. You know, now is the time. Wait, what was your original question?
How did you get involved with Rat Pack?
Oh, okay. So Larry said, I can get you a deal with Rat Pack Records. I was like, whoa, slow down there, cowboy. You know, he was like, you know, because he had gotten John Corabi,
right,
and Lynch Mob, a couple other people, but he's got a close relationship with Joe O'Brien at Rat Pack. And I was like, wait, give me a minute.
Right.
Give me a minute. And I was like, let me go in the studio myself, see what I come up with. I don't want to sign anything and owe anybody anything and be on a timetable. Mm-hmm. You know, as soon as I sign something, then, you know, labels are crawling up your ass and, you know, with a microscope and saying, where's the songs? You know, but so I got Troy Lucetta, throw me some drum tracks, and I got down 3 songs. And I sent No Strings out to Fred Corey to mix. And Joe O'Brien at Rat Pack heard No Strings. He was like, I have to have him, basically. So after I got down 3 songs and he dug No Strings, I was like, okay, I'll sign. And then it was game on. Then it was, oh my God. And then I started running around with Cheap Thrill. Mm-hmm. And you know, I was like, wait a minute, I owe a record. You know? So, and then it became very hectic.
Oh, I can imagine.
Trying to, you know, playing out every weekend with Cheap Thrill and on cruises and stuff.
Yeah, cruises?
Yeah.
Cruises? I don't remember any cruises. I don't know what you're talking about.
We don't need no stinking cruises.
No, man. Is Cheap Thrill done now? Are you guys just kind of on a hiatus, or what?
I believe so. I don't know. I mean, I had to stop. I had to stop to do, you know, to finish this record,
right?
Put it out and promote it and all that stuff. And when I did, I believe Eric and Brandon are playing with Ricky Rocket and Tracy Guns.
Yeah, that's right.
So they're called Devil City Angels.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they just took that opportunity to be rid of me and said, well, we can do better.
And then Troy took his hair on tour with Motley Crue.
What?
He was in the opening band on the first leg of that Crue tour. Yeah.
You talking about Troy Patrick?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, because I was just talking about Troy. I thought you meant Troy Lucetta.
Right.
What?
I just wanted to talk about his hair.
Yeah, I know. He took him and his hair.
Yes.
Him and his Jennifer Aniston hair.
Yeah.
You know,
best smelling hair on the boat. Now, do you realize that between you and Tom over the past year, you've put out more music than Cinderella has in 20 years?
I do realize that. I do. And everybody asks me, you know, usually the last question of every interview is, so what are the chances Cinderella puts out another record? I was like, well, pretty much slim to none.
Right.
I mean, it's been 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for 20 years, I've been answering that question with some with some positivity, with some chance of, well, I never rule it out.
Right.
And Tom always kind of told me to answer it that way. He didn't tell me. He was just like, hey, he's like, I never rule it out. If the opportunity and the circumstances are right. So I've been answering it that way for 20 years. Yeah, now I'm answering it slim to none.
Well, it's a big difference, but it's never say never.
I know. Yeah, I know. That'd be great. I just hope we tour again. I mean, Tom's seems pretty successful in a solo thing, and he's been doing it for over. I mean, I think he's been touring for over a year now.
God, he has. That's right. Yeah, because that record came out last summer.
Right, and I haven't even started yet. So,
keyword is yet.
Right, no, but I'm gonna, and I might not actually get into a full swing of a tour until next summer. So, I don't foresee. I mean, if Cinderella gets back together and tours again, it probably won't be for a couple of years.
I forgot what I was gonna ask. Oh yes, I remember now.
Why you edit.
This is true. Oh hell no, man! I leave it all in. I leave it all in. So I was going to ask you this about Cinderella too. Are you surprised? I mean, 'cause you guys only have 4 records out, and are you surprised that? What's that?
Am I surprised we only have?
No. Are you surprised that that band has had such longevity off of 4 records?
Well, I'm not surprised at this point because now I'm. It's been a long time ago, but. I mean, at the time, I was surprised that we hit it so big, and I was so grateful that the second record was just as big as the first one. But then, each one declined after that.
Right.
It was like the third one, Heartbreak Station. We had a lot of money or a lot of pull to do what we really wanted to do. And we spent a lot of money on Heartbreak Station. We went all over the country recording with great musicians, string sections, horn sections, background singers, and recording at different studios for different vibes. And spent about $1 million on that record, and it only sold like half as much as the previous 2. But, it also set a trend, I think, amongst some of the 80s hard rock bands. They weren't called hair bands back then. We were called 80s hard rock. And, we were just rock bands. Actually.
Right, exactly. Who had hair.
Yeah, but, we started using acoustics and string sections and black girls as background singers and, a lot of soulful horn sections and stuff like that. And I heard Motley Crue do it. Then I heard Warrant do it. Then I heard, and I heard, a bunch of bands do it. And I was like, that was really cool. Unfortunately, by the 4th record, 80s was so cool that it became that uncool.
Right.
80s, just the longer I've watched the history of music, and the longer, not even music, just fashion, style, everything in society. The longer something's cool, the less cool it becomes. Everybody starts going, that's played. It's played. You're old school. You're so 1987. Right. Whatever. And this is 91. So then it was that kind of music and fashion got so far, so glammy. There was no place to go but down. And Nirvana and Pearl Jam came out, and Seattle hit it big, looking like scumbags, basically. Right. Looking like gas station attendants in their jeans. In their jeans and biker boots and flannel shirts. It was like it got stripped down to the 60s. Then I think music started all over again. I totally forgot what your initial question was.
I forgot too.
I tend to go on a tangent.
You know what though? I like that. It's part of your charm. You talk about you talk about the glammy aspect, and for the first record, you guys really embrace that. Larry Mazer, your old manager, was on Three Sides of the Coin, and he said his biggest regret with you guys was presenting you guys as that on the Night Songs record.
Well, I don't think that was him that presented us that way.
Okay.
I mean, this is the way we dressed. Yeah, this is the way. I mean, what was on our first album cover is the way we dressed on stage. It was our stage clothes. So, I mean, it was because it was what was cool then. We actually pushed the envelope a little bit, I mean, 85, 86, we were doing, like they were doing the animal print spandex. Yep. with goofy boots and bandanas and the high hair. It's just what was going on then. And we were just trying to do it even more so. So as far as Larry, I don't think Larry had any influence on the way we dressed at all.
Well, I think he was just talking about the album cover itself. I don't know.
Well, he was in part, yeah, okay. Well, he was in part guilty of hiring Mark Weiss to shoot the album cover.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I think the album cover needed a picture of the band because that was the appeal.
Right.
If we put a friggin' painting on the cover, people would be like, "Who's this?"
Right.
So I think it's a fine line between stupid and genius.
Speaking of stupid and genius, Gene Simmons. Can you talk a little bit about his dealings with Cinderella in the beginning?
Well, I wasn't around then.
Oh, okay.
So Gene, I actually joined Cinderella in '85, and they formed in like '83, and Gene Simmons, I believe. I'm obviously going to paraphrase and just tell you the story as I've heard it. He tried to sign the band when it was Tom and Eric, Michael Kelly Smith from Britney Fox, and Tony Destra, who also was in the beginnings of Britney Fox but passed away before they could do anything. But yeah, from what I heard, Gene Simmons offered them a record deal, and I think it was their first deal, and they actually went, and met with him in his loft in New York or whatever, or his office or whatever, and he offered them a record deal, but he wanted everything. He wanted all their publishing. He had to co-write every song. He produces it, and he's the manager.
Oh, wow.
And Tom and Eric had the balls to say no.
Well, I'm glad they did.
So
you are too, obviously. But...
So they went back. They went back to the clubs and continued playing, and they got a few other record deal offers that other labels weren't happy with the band members outside of Tom and Eric, and that's how I got into the band. I was chosen. I auditioned for them in '85.
Okay.
After they were offered a record deal with Mercury Polygram, Derek Shulman, who had signed, not Skid Row, Bon Jovi, who had signed Bon Jovi a few years before, offered Cinderella a record deal, but they had to replace the guitar player and drummer. I said, you need. Derek said you need a Jakey Lee type, because Ozzy and Jake were real big at that time. I was like, that's me.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm Jakey Lee type. I think his mom's Korean. My mom's Japanese.
Perfect.
That's me. I was like, my hair's almost as big as his.
And I can make a pizza.
There you go.
Now you're talking about the original two guys that were gone. I have it under very good, very good rumor that did you guys almost hire Richie Ramone?
I don't know who that is.
Richie Ramone from the Ramones.
Oh, sorry. Well, if that happened, that was before me.
Okay. So that I'd have to ask Tom about that.
That story, I've never heard that story. I've heard just about every Cinderella story there is, even before I was in the band. So I've never heard that one.
Okay. Well, if I ever get Tom on, I'll have to ask him about that because he'd probably know more.
Yes, he would. and Tom retains more too. I tend to recall stories and with my Alzheimer's. I couldn't even think of the word Alzheimer's. Just like plus my stories change over the years. I embellish and my memory switches them around.
You really are the Ace Frehley of Cinderella.
What? What does that mean?
That's not a rip. I love Ace.
What the hell does that mean? Oh my God!
It's the laugh. It's the accent.
Oh,
You're
okay.
a funny guy. That's what it is.
Funny how? What? Like a clown?
Funny like a pizza maker. That's how you're funny. What do you remember about the Moscow Music Peace Festival?
What?
What do you remember about the
I'm
Moscow?
kidding.
Okay,
I'm kidding.
I was gonna say.
Wait, did I play there? Wait, I think I was hanging out with Ace. You know who I was actually hanging out with? Skid Row.
Yes, you were.
So I, when we played there, what was that 88, 89?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, it was sometime in the 80s. But I had met or known all the bands that were on that bill. Bon Jovi, obviously, we toured with them. Scorpions, we toured with them. Ozzy, I'd met quite a few times. Motley, hung out and got hammered with them many times. And Skid Row was the new kids on the block at that time.
Yeah.
So those were the only ones that I had never met. And I ended up hanging with them the whole time. I think there was like MTV contest winners, and one of them got a picture of me and Snake in like the middle of Red Square with our pants down. I don't know whatever happened to that picture, but it's around somewhere.
For some reason that just does not shock me.
No. I mean, it was so funny. And I think we all stayed in the same. Now we all flew on the same plane over there, which was utter chaos and just lots of drunks.
Oh yeah.
It was so much fun.
So it was kind of like the Monsters Cruise, except on a plane.
Yeah, it was so much fun unless you were Ozzy. And there was a few of us. There was a few of them that had just gotten sober. So
yeah, the crew guys, right?
Yeah, the crew. Yeah, they had just gotten sober, so they weren't having fun. I think Ozzy was sober at the time, although Sharon was feeding him Valiums, just to keep him from complaining.
Right.
It was so funny because I was sitting across the aisle from him, and he just wanted to kill everyone. Number one on his list was Sebastian Bach.
Sebastian? Loud and annoying? No.
He was a complete gentleman. So much so that they were I think that the Skid Boys had roommates. I think we had our own rooms, and they're big, gigantic rooms with no furniture in them. And the beds were like cots with like that dipped like real big in the middle. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was like living in 1940s black and white movie.
We give them no furniture. They have nothing to throw out the window.
Right. Well, speaking of the windows, I'm looking out the windows, and all I can see is like people like with binoculars watching us. It was really weird. It was still communist back then.
All right.
So anyway, the Skid Boys were I guess they were rooming, and I think Sebastian was rooming with Rob Fuso, the drummer, and even they got sick of him on a daily basis. And they were still new. Obviously, when they parted ways, it was because of years of this, dealing with him. I was like, I love him. Rob kicked him out of his room. Rob kicked him or locked him out or something, and he came and stayed with me the rest of the week.
How was that for you?
Oh my God! Can you imagine me and fucking Sebastian Bach? Just like
Jesus
for a
Christ.
week, like hanging out for a weekend, no holds barred.
Oh.
I thought he was so funny. Oh God, believe me, I couldn't live with him.
Right.
Yeah, we but I've seen him recently. Like we recently toured together, recent as 2012, and we reminisced about some of that stuff, man. And he hasn't changed.
No.
And I probably haven't changed that much.
I didn't know you back then, so I can't comment on that. But
Well,
I can just imagine.
I think I've gotten a little smarter and a little bit more reasonable.
Okay.
But I think I'm just as much fun.
Dude, all I know is I had a fucking blast with you for 2.5, 3 weeks on that boat, man. That was a good time.
Oh, me too with you. That was fun. But I don't know, some about Sebastian Bach, man. I mean, all you got to do is say his name.
Right.
They're like, oh, I know.
Well, I mean, I think everybody knows somebody like that, but he's just on another level.
I know.
I guess.
I'm that.
And that's not that there's anything wrong with that.
I know. In Cinderella, I'm that guy.
Yeah, you're their ace.
Okay.
On the now you guys for that show, all of the bands put together a record for that, and you guys recorded a cover of Janis Joplin's "Move Over." Now I know you guys didn't really record any other covers in that. What was it about that song, and what do you remember about that?
Well, that was a record made to coincide with the Moscow Music Peace Festival, and it was to benefit like a street level kind of rehab program, and it was called, what was it called? Stairway to Heaven, Highway to Hell.
Yes.
And we were all the bands that were chosen to do it or asked to do it were given the choice to play a song by someone who has died from alcohol or drug abuse. So I mean, Kiefer, he's influenced big time by Janis Joplin, as probably we all are. But he almost sounds like her, And I think it was Tom that chose that song, and we're like, yeah, because we don't do cover songs,
Right.
We've never recorded another cover tune, but this was for a good cause, and it was to also coincide and promote the Moscow shows, and so he was the one that chose that. And when we went in the studio to record them, Tom and I only brought vintage guitars and vintage amps. We wanted to make it sound as old as we could. We didn't go in there with like bar sounds and crazy distortion and the sound of the 80s. We went in there to try and replicate what cool 60s, 70s rock sounds like. Play it the way it's played. Put a little. I think we changed the arrangement just a little bit, but we gave it old school sounds. And Tom, I think, just sang the shit out of that song, man. Oh my God, I think the out section of that song is probably his best vocal performance, including all Cinderella records.
Well, yeah, he did. He did kill it. And I mean, that's saying a lot, because I mean, Tom is not a lot of people that can touch him,
and not a lot of people can touch Janis Joplin.
Right.
He really nailed that, and I think we got it right by by getting like old guitar sounds and stuff.
And actually, if anybody sees Cinderella, I mean, now, if it happens within the next couple of years, I mean, you guys kind of go back to that now live, don't you?
What? Go back to what?
Kind of go back to that older, because I mean, you're playing Les Pauls, and Tom's playing Les Pauls, and it's really more of that. It doesn't really have that '80s vibe.
Well, we've always, well, not always. I mean, I think my first tour, my first Cinderella tour, I only owned 2 guitars. So somewhere along the line, I made a couple bucks to buy a few more. But by the second tour, yeah, Tom and I were buying, vintage guitars. We were buying, vintage. At one point, I had like 5 vintage Strats, a few Firebirds. We got like really ridiculous. Some people buy houses, some people buy cars. Tom and I were buying guitars. We were going to like pawn shops and antique shows and guitar shows. We were buying old ass guitars. At one point, Tom had 3 1959 Sunburst Les Pauls.
Oh my God!
Now those are like priceless these days.
Yeah.
There's probably less than 100 left.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom had 3 of them at one time.
That's insane.
And guess when I started getting into getting into buying vintage guitars with him and going to guitar shows and all that stuff, he was like, one of his 59 Sunburst Les Pauls, he gave it to me.
What?
Yeah. He had 3 of them, and he was so proud of me, like getting into. Tom's been a mentor to me for all the years I've been with him. And when I started getting into, buying vintage guitars, he was so proud. He was like, took me in the back lounge one night, and he was playing one of his 59 Sunbursts, and he's like, oh, check it out. And I'm not playing. He's like, do you like it? I was like, dude, what's not to like it? He's like, take it. It's yours.
That's insane.
Well, that's the kind of guy he is.
Right.
It was like, yeah, I got 3 of them. And back then, I think he paid about $5,000 for it.
Right.
But it was probably worth, back then it was probably worth, maybe 20, 25, but, they've since become priceless.
Oh, I know. It's just insane the way Les Pauls have jumped. I mean, because I bought my first Les Paul in the mid-'90s, and it was a 77 Standard. I got it for $500.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. These days, you can't get a Les Paul for under $2,000.
No.
Yeah, I know.
All right, before we finish this up, I do have to ask you to tell us the story of how you got off drugs.
How I got off drugs?
When you got arrested.
Oh, you're talking about back in the 90s?
Back in the 90s, yeah. Can you tell that story?
Yeah. I back in the 90s when, I guess at the same time, Seattle took over the music business. They also took over the heroin business, and I got into both. I got into. I'm gonna blame it on Alice in Chains. I got into Alice in Chains, and I got into that whole scene, man. Living in Philadelphia, believe it or not. But yeah, I started doing a little smack here and there because coke was not so much no more. Coke got played out in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Remember I told you earlier, the longer something's cool, the less uncool it becomes.
Yep.
Yeah, that was coke too. So everybody's like, yeah, let's do heroin. So yeah, I started doing it, and I knew from the get-go, people told me don't connect the days. I'm like, what's that mean? Well, don't do it don't do it days in a row because your body becomes, dependent on it. And the day you don't do it, say you do it 2, 3, 4 days in a row, the next day you're just sick as shit. So I kept that in mind for about a year. And then that was out the window. Mm-hmm. The less Cinderella worked, the more heroin I did. And then the more heroin I did, the more crack I smoked. I was like, well, I'm nodding out in public, so I should probably smoke crack. Yeah, that's reasonable.
Brilliant idea.
That's fucking brilliant. Yeah, that's totally reasonable because I don't want to nod out in front of my family. So I'll go in the bathroom and smoke some crack and wake up a little.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that became a ridiculous, like, I think I was up to like a $300 a day habit.
Holy shit.
Until I got arrested. You know, I was on a New Jersey Turnpike. The worst part of it is I was going to see my son, who was probably like 3 years old at the time. He was down the shore, and I got pulled over for speeding, and I just copped. I think a bundle of heroin, or two bundles of heroin, a bundle of crack, whatever it is. It's about $300.
That's a lot of drugs.
So, and I'm like, choking away on my glass dick, driving, and I'm speeding. I'm like, oh. I get pulled over for speeding, and I'm jamming. I got like a jean jacket on, and all my drugs are in my top pockets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm trying to jam that glass dick into my top pocket, and it's like, I get pulled over. I look, what's up, officer? And I got a fucking dick poking out of my top pocket. He's like, son, you need to get out of the car. So, I went through a lot of litigation and all that stuff, and it was mandatory rehab.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it. Spent a week or so on my parents' couch before I went into rehab. Did rehab, kicked all drugs, and I've never looked back since. This was like 96.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we're all happy that you did.
Yeah. Hey, we all go through it.
Oh, exactly.
It's funny. I'm walking cliche of what rockers go through. I've been through everything, just not public, just not widely advertised. I haven't read a book about it. I haven't Motley Crue'd it.
Mm-hmm. Yet.
So yet, if I write a book, it's going to be all about me. I will never talk about anyone else. I won't Bobby Blotzer it.
Right. I haven't read that one yet.
Well, my book won't talk about anybody else's stuff but mine. I'll be like, look, here I am. I'm the idiot. It was me.
Well, I think you've got the stories where you could write a good book. I think you should look at that.
Oh my God! I just recently got out. I did another stint in rehab to get off painkillers, because I got a hip replacement.
Right.
Believe it or not, I got a hip replacement like 3-4 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, and they got me hooked on painkillers. I was like, oh my God, an ex-junkie, let's give them a lot of painkillers.
Right.
So, yeah. Can I have more? They're like, I was like, can I have more? They're like, okay. Every time I asked for more, they said okay. And they go, oh boy. I know doctors. I mean, something like pain management.
Mm-hmm.
It's like legal drug dealers.
Right, absolutely. Is that how you were able to get out and play so soon after having that surgery?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, I had my hip replacement, and 2 weeks later, I was on stage in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's insane. You shouldn't have been able to walk yet.
Well, I couldn't walk, but I could stand. I could stand and I could play guitar.
Right, you just couldn't spin it.
No, I think I could spin. I spun. No, I could spin it. I just couldn't spin me.
Oh, man, dude, this has been an absolute blast.
Cool.
Thank you.
It's great talking to you, buddy, man. I miss you.
I miss you too.
I missed you right away when I left that boat.
All I remember is we were in the van on the way to the airport, and you're on the phone with your wife, and you're like, "Hey, you remember that clown in the fucking mankini last year? We're like best buds now."
I'm not sure I called you a clown, but okay.
Oh, you might have. I would have probably high-fived you for it anyway, so. That's just kind of how I roll. Jeff, man, thank you so much. The record is on Rat Pack Records. It is called One for the road.
One for the road.
Please go buy it.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on iTunes. It's even available at Best Buy. You know, come on, man.
It's still holding up there a little bit in Billboard too, right?
I think so.
All right, there you go.
Still on the Heat Seekers chart.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Oh, so damn cool. Jeff LaBar, thank you so much for joining the show. It was a pleasure to finally get you on. We've been planning on that for a little while now. We finally made it happen. Should hopefully have Eric Martin from Mr. Big next week. God, this thing's really turning into a rock star haven over here. I kind of like it. So good. So make sure you check back next week for that. I'll keep everybody posted on the Facebook page, facebook.com/another effing podcast. Follow me on the Twitter, Izzy_Presley. You can email me, Izzy at IzzyPresleyProductions.com, which is also the website, IzzyPresleyProductions.com, if you need any PR, affordable PR and media help. I can help you do that so goodly. Make sure you check out the sponsors, RockstarLeatherworks.com, badass leather bands and watches. You will absolutely love them. You'll buy one and want to get another one right away because they're just that damn cool. OneStopAutoLA.com. That's OneStopAutoLA.com. The number one, StopAutoLA.com. You need yourself a car here in Los Angeles, California. And don't forget, also, very important, if you want to help the show, if you want to contribute, keep this bad boy rolling and make it better, the PayPal is izzy.presley@gmail.com, izzy.presley@gmail.com. I will see you next week with another segment from the great Babu about fantasy football and hopefully Eric Martin from Mr. Big. I will see you then, and ladies and gentlemen, I do love you all.